gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stutz. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like this podcast. As always, we're your host, Blake, my brother, Brooks. I know it's been a while. Lots happened there at the end of the year, not least of which the epic collapse that was Nebraska not being able to get the sixth win. A lot happened with Christmas. You graduated college.
Yeah, we haven't even. I don't even think
the last time we talked was
after, since Dylan Raiola committed. I don't even think we've podcasted since Dylan Raiola committed.
National Signing Day.
We did do a National Signing Day podcast.
Yeah,
okay.
That was the last one we did.
And obviously you can look at the title of this and you probably know what day we're posting this if you're watching this. Yeah. So we promised we were planning on doing a podcast today. Either way, it just happened that some of the biggest news of the offseason certainly happened today, and some unfortunate news is that Trev Alberts, and it was confirmed just about an hour ago too, is that Trev Alberts left his post at AD as AD of Nebraska to go become athletic director at Texas A&M University. Yeah. So I have some thoughts. I know you have some thoughts, but I guess I'll let you start. What are your thoughts on hearing that news?
When I first saw it, I mean, I didn't really first see it. You called me out of the blue, which is,
No, I called you. You didn't answer, and then I said, "Call me ASAP." Then you called me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it's how I do work,
Yes,
so
yes.
I just kind of ignored the first one. But so it was one of those things that, when you told me, it was just like, what? It was. It kind of like took me back because Trev has been one of those things ever since he got hired that was like kind of like a knockout of the park. Like it was a legacy guy, deep, not just Nebraska, like college ties, but like statewide. Like he was at UNO before he was at UNL. And you just kind of felt like he was always going to put the university first. You always felt like he was going to make the right choices. And even when he got there and decided to keep Scott, that was at that time after the season they just had was the right choice. But then when he saw that nothing was going to change after getting basically everything that he wanted, made the choice to cut it. Funding all the projects that he did, oversaw not the completion of Big Red Project. That wasn't really a Go Big project. That wasn't his thing, but, oversaw the beginning of that massive survey for enhancements you just felt like everything that he was doing was so great for the university. The hiring of Matt Rule, where that's going. You just felt like he was in it for the long haul and he really cared. So that the fact, like the news that it became official kind of took away my other point. It was like maybe he was using it for a bargaining chip. Apparently I saw something about like that the AD was going to have to report to the regents as opposed to the chancellor.
I'm glad it became official so that we don't have to have those types of conversations.
Exactly.
This is just a definitive thing. We can just talk about it as it is.
But like when it is
unfortunate.
Very
unfortunate.
Now that it's official, it's kind of a head scratcher. I'm sure he has his reasons.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was all in and he was making great decisions for Nebraska. He was just on one of those that Chasing 3 documentary.
Yeah.
He was talking about like how excited he was, and
he was just on the Husker Online show the other day being interviewed by Sean and Sip, like for the first 15 minutes of their show. And literally in November, I mean, I woke up today and the first thing I saw on Twitter was like somebody posted the clip of Trev in November saying like, "I love Nebraska. This is the place I'd rather be." And quite frankly, I think Nebraska is the premier athletic director job in the country, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what had happened at first. So I was like, interesting posting that video. And then I scrolled up one tweet and was like, Oh my God. So yeah, it hit me like a brick wall because if you know Nebraska, we don't have to explain any of this to you, but I mean, to make this a succinct storyline in this podcast, we'll put it this way. He is an All-American in Nebraska player, has his name on the stadium, the sack man. I mean, this dude was a stud player, and not only a stud player, but I mean, a great person, an ambassador for the university, a person who loves the university in a lot of ways, and has just always had a history, and has just always had a history here. So, it's shocking. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just so shocking. And unfortunately, as I've sat here and thought about it all day, I really have a hard time seeing like anything other than like the fact that I don't think this was about money. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about that on YouTube. I've already heard a lot of people talk about it on, the old money, it's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous argument. He was already a top 10 paid athletic director in the country. He had an 8-year contract with Nebraska. He just signed to A&M for a 5-year contract. So he's going down in years, which is a big deal. Okay. And so this is, I mean, at best a lateral move at best, at best.
And to put a like kind of bow on that, like the Texas A&M AD job, significantly harder because they have unrealistic expectations for all their sports at all times. They have that Texas pride combined with nothing that they've ever done to back it up. Their expectations are so high. I mean,
it's the fourth best football team in Texas.
Yeah,
it's the fourth best football team. Texas is number one. Like U of H. Who else?
Like
Baylor,
I was about to say, at this point, like Baylor and Houston, as an AD job, because don't even think about football, right? Just think about the sports in general.
Yep.
Texas A&M is probably like fourth best because
think about it in terms of stock market. Think about it in terms of stock market valuation. Okay, A&M already has $100 million valuation, and the fans expect them to hold forth at that valuation or bring it up to 200 or 300 million. Versus if you're at Houston, you have a $30 million valuation and you'll explode. Exploding will be just getting up to Texas A&M's level. You know what I mean? With fan support and with all that stuff. So there's so much more potential to buy in low at a place like Houston and Baylor versus at a place like A&M. A&M has had the resources forever, and they've had arguably just as little success as Nebraska in the last couple of years. So it's not much of a different situation on the field wise. But here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on the whole situation. I woke up, I was shocked, and at first I was like, maybe it was money, and then I looked at the contract details, don't think it's money. Now, I mean, I almost want to put my tinfoil hat on, but it's not even that big of a jump, so I don't even really want to do that. Now I'm like, okay, well, there's something rotten in the administration. That's what it's got to be. I mean, there's two possible theories. That's the first one, okay? The second one doesn't really have to do with this, but the first one is there's some rottenness going on in the administration. And we can get into all the DEI and what the potential could have infected a college and if funding wasn't going to the right spot and if he wasn't getting the things he really needed and yada, yada, yada. There's lots of reasons administratively why an athletic director would want to leave. One thing I know is that Ted Carter left to go to Ohio State, and the Board of Regents has been taking forever to approve a president. And Trev even hinted the other day on the radio that he wasn't satisfied with what was going on with that president search. So that could play a huge factor. The other thing, and I hate that I have to mention it, but it's just the fact, is that there's a sexual assault lawsuit that's being levied on the university and on Trev Alberts personally. So it could have to do with that as well. Because you just gotta wonder. It's like he's got his name on the freaking stadium. Yeah, man.
There's something that he's running away from.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's the question.
And that's the question. And listen, we might be talking, a couple months down from now. Something has come out, and he didn't want it to look bad on the university, just about him personally. Something else. But he just tried to distance himself from that situation. We could be going like, okay, well, that's a good move. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm not hoping that. I'm not saying that I hope that. But when the cogs in the machine seem to be all firing, and all the pistons firing on all cylinders. You have to wonder about, again, tinfoil hat, but about like what happened,
Well,
because he was all in.
Well, I'm not qualified
apparently.
to talk about all the details of the situation, but what I know about it is this. There was a college basketball player, a female college basketball player, who was sexually harassed essentially by an assistant coach, male assistant coach. And I don't know if he wasn't fired quick enough. I don't know. The thing that I think the thing that's most believable to me is that maybe something administratively needed to be done by Trev that maybe wasn't handled the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Trev's personally involved in any of the stuff that happened,
Sure,
but that maybe he didn't handle it 100% the right way administratively. You know what I mean? So that's what makes the most sense to me, unfortunately, in this situation, because you just look at it, it's like, dude's an all-American. His mentors are here. His family is here. I mean, he is in the fraternity of Nebraska football players. Can you imagine how many texts Trev got today from former players just asking what's going on? You know what I mean? So he didn't want to do any of that. So there's got to be something that compelled him to have to do it.
Yeah. So here's something I'm going to read. So Albert's... I'm going to put like will replay because this was from earlier. I just took screenshots. So Alberts replaces Ross Bjork, who was A&M's athletic director for 5 years before recently being hired away by Ohio State. So you said that. So Nebraska is owed $4.12 million in damages because he left, and is so President Ted Carter from Nebraska was also hired away to Ohio State last year, last August. And they've been Ronnie Green, the chancellor, was stepped down. And that's been over 15 months. Ugh. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Callahan, he posted that picture of Rule posing with all three of those guys you just mentioned right after his opening press conference. It was like, dang, it's crazy looking back at this picture, and now all these guys are gone, you know?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Well, my point to that is I know it's Texas A&M, but Ohio State's really screwed us over in a couple ways here. I mean, no tinfoil there. It's just kind of like, because there's no way like we're gonna hire all these people away from Nebraska and A&M, and then they'll get like that's a big tinfoil. I just thought it was like, of course, because Ohio State needs another program that has just as much money as them to not be as powerful, but
Well, my tinfoil hat theory is going to be one that might ostracize some of our three people in the audience, but what it is that I think that this is at least part of it. Let me just put it that way. I think that Nebraska is a little bit of especially administration, is a little bit of a DEI hub. They love their diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if there's one thing I know about A&M, for all their faults, they're one of the more conservative schools in the country.
Yeah, but you're going to run into that
Well, but what I'm saying is there was mention about funding and like things weren't getting funding. Well, the reason that's happening in a lot of schools these days is because, well, we need to fund this program because if we don't fund that, then there won't be enough of this many people on our docket to
for like Title IX.
Exactly. Yeah, for Title IX, but it's more than that. Title IX is about male and female more than or is it just about any identity?
It's about creating equality in all of the sports.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they all have to abide by Title IX for sure, but I don't know. It just seems like he wasn't given. Maybe that's another thing. He just wasn't being given enough control. He wasn't being given the things he needed to do.
It very, very well could be, but it really didn't seem like it. He was getting up projects announced, getting them funded. Like he was doing like. So I think it's probably more of a personal issue combined with a little bit more of an annoyance. In his job. Do you know what I mean? It might be more of he had more of like a personal issue with something than he did administratively.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure that because every job has them, you're frustrated with certain things, right? So I'm sure that there were some that were very, frustrating for him. But it just kind of seems like, I don't know, like even after like we were able to get Tony White back, like because he was linked. So like when now that we know that he's leaving and gone, like there were posts like Tony White expected to be hired by UCLA. Like those are all over the place.
For sure. I mean, the first part of this day, I was definitely waiting to see.
Yeah.
Like that's where I was.
And yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but he's gonna do what he did because it's his career.
No, 100%. I mean, all that's true. I'm just trying to figure out why. Because that's, you know what I mean? Because here's the thing. We're stuck here. We got ends on our chests. You got an N on your hat. We got flags in the background. We're running a channel called Cornhusker Corner. We are Nebraska fans. We're here. Yeah. We're not leaving to go be A&M fans. Okay, that's not how it works. Yeah. So we have moved past acceptance, and I'm trying to get to the diagnosis phase, which is why I'm talking about all that administration stuff. But the reality is it speaks to a bigger problem. Like, generalize it there. It just speaks to a bigger problem. Whatever that means, I don't know. But now we're here to deal with it. And my biggest worry coming away from this is this nightmare scenario I'm about to lay out for you. So Rule was Trev's handpicked coach.
Yeah.
Elko just got hired at A&M, and not a whole lot of the fan base is excited about that hire. Now, I think Elko's a hell of a coach and he has a shot to be successful there, but let's say he isn't. Let's say he goes 5-7 in his first year, and let's say there's pressure on Trev Alberts to make a move to fire Elko. Well, who's he going to go with? The guy with the biggest network of recruiting in Texas that he knows. He's going to hire Rule if that situation happens. That's what's going to happen.
He's going to try.
Yeah, he's going to try. No doubt about it. So there's the nightmare scenario. Is that meanwhile, while that crap is happening at A&M, we make a bowl game for the first time, and then Rule leaves.
Sure. Here's the thing, though. Rule, well, he's been on record, but that really doesn't mean
matter.
Crap.
Okay, doesn't mean crap.
But here's what I will say. He has a reputation right now of being in a place for at most 3 years and then leaving.
Yep.
That's just what he does. That is his MO. Mm-hmm. He needs to be a successful coach in the long run. He has to build and maintain success at least over a 6-year period, right? Before he can even consider taking another job at another place for his perception of, he just builds stuff and then leaves. And he hasn't built stuff to keep going like an Urban Meyer has,
Yeah, but Blake, let's lay out the scenario. What if we go 10-2? What if we go 9-3? What if we have just not only a bowl year, but a really good year? Then it's all of a sudden he's done it at 4 places, and A&M needs it. And it's like an easy
the Big
sell.
10 is easier to win than the SEC.
Arguably, especially with the new additions, it's now arguably. Saban's gone, the new additions, it's now arguably.
It's different out there.
9 games, 9 conference games in the Big Ten, only 8 in the SEC. I mean, it is. Matter of fact, I would argue it might be harder to win in the Big Ten, in the new Big Ten.
Yeah, there's more shitty teams in the Big Ten, though.
Yeah, but there's more better teams too. You only have really Kirby. He's the guy.
Yeah. But again,
now in the Big Ten, you have Day, you have Sharon Moore, you have Dan Lanning at Oregon, you have Washington coming in, you have USC, Lincoln Riley, UCLA. I don't know who they're going to hire, but did they already hire their internal guy? Yeah. But and Wisconsin's getting better. I mean, like Penn State's good. I mean,
yeah, but I'm just telling. I don't think. Like Ryan Day, I think is a good coach. I think all the stuff that they're about to run into, if they fire him after another season like they've had, they're in some hot water to maybe get on a trajectory like Nebraska has been on for the past 20 years.
Make no mistake, they will fire him if they don't get to the national championship. They should get to it at the very least. Beat Michigan and get to the national championship.
They have to be careful about that because look at where we are.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And, Harbaugh's gone at Michigan now, too. No, he did a good. Their new coach did a great job filling in, but it was Harbaugh's team.
Yeah.
Right? Harbaugh's
Yep.
game plan. Harbaugh was in
100%.
practice. Harbaugh was there.
100%.
You don't know how that's going to work out.
For sure.
Franklin at Penn State can't win the big game. He's a solid coach. You're going to get 9 to 10 wins with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's good enough for Penn State, I think, right now. It may not be. They might start to, like, if he has a bad season, his seat might get hot, but he's not going to win the big games. He just won't. And then like Fickle at Wisconsin, I don't know, dude. I don't see it. I still don't see it.
Well, yeah, but so you got Lanning too at Oregon. They're going to be a behemoth.
Like Lanning is good. Again, he's kind of crapped the bed in some big games, but young coach, young career.
Rutgers has a top 10 defense. I mean, there's like sleepers in the Big Ten like that. You know what I mean?
Lincoln Riley's teams don't really scare me that much
at all. Me either.
And now that Caleb Williams is gone, like
me
he was
either.
he was their only thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's like go against the top 10 defense and see what you think about. Like, see what you
and
think
even
about
like
a
Chip
real,
Kelly.
you know.
I was kind of scared for Chip Kelly because his offenses could score, man. They could score, and he knew how to like build forward.
Okay, well, if we're going to talk about Chip Kelly, let's then circle back to Ohio State.
Ohio State, yeah.
I mean, they had one of the best off seasons in football history.
Yeah.
It's insane. The quarterbacks they signed, the running backs they signed. They have the best quarterback room in the country, the best running back room in the country. They signed the best DB. They signed one of the best receivers, and they got literally maybe the best offensive coordinator in the country. No doubt about it. I mean, a guy who wasn't even he was a head coach, but he had to take over a position group during bowl prep. And while he was taking over the position group, he was thinking to himself, he's just like, I kind of like this. I think I want to become an offensive coordinator again.
Yeah.
So then when it was available, it was like $2 million for offensive coordinator. Perfect. So Ohio State's going to be they're going to be a juggernaut this year. Yeah. They're going to be a juggernaut.
They will.
So the Big Ten's tough.
Yeah. Trev didn't leave for Ohio State though.
No,
he left for Texas A&M. I don't understand.
Yeah, it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth.
Like, with all the momentum that football in particular has had, right? Because basketball, we'll touch on that. They had a surprise season basically. They've done very well.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
Hoiberg, had a lot of
Hoiberg.
That's what I said. He had a lot of like growing pains. I think hopefully he's built something now, but that's always kind of like, oh, that's a nice kind of thing. Nebraska is not a basketball school, even though they had a good season. They're not a basketball school. It's a welcome surprise.
Yes.
Football with the off season that we've had, just the progress that you could see was getting made. Having the highest rated quarterback prospect in probably the history, especially in the last 20 years, legacy recruit that we flipped from a perennial national championship winning program of like 2 back-to-back years.
Teams of which he was a part of too. You know what I mean? Teams he was a part of. He wasn't just a fan at the time. He was a freaking All-American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look up at the stadium, it's Eric Crouch, it's Tommy Frazier, it's Trev Alberts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so out of the blue. Like when Ohio State plucked Ted Carter out, that made sense to me because Ted Carter was a very impressive person. He had a very, very impressive resume and history of success pretty much everywhere he had been.
Yeah.
Everybody who had worked with him, glowing and positive reviews of working with him. And he's a military man. So, you speak the highest of that guy. And it made sense why Ohio State would want him. He's not a Nebraska guy at heart. All made sense. This is completely out of the blue and makes me feel like, what the hell are we doing? Like, we're all rooting. We were all supposed to be in this together. Now we all have trust issues again.
Yeah.
All of us. You know what I mean?
You were the chosen one.
You were the chosen one. That's the gem. Honestly, we definitely need to like superimpose faces onto those characters and post that gem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a rough day in Nebraska. But again, I think as time moves on, things will become more clear. And at this point, all I can really think of is, like I said, those two things. It's the loss. It has to do with the lawsuit, I think, and it has to do with I think there was administrative roadblocks that were in place that Trev didn't like. You know what I mean? And because it's weird, like we just talked about, the athletic department as a whole, if you just pay attention to what's going on in every sport, is on the rise.
Yeah.
Baseball is doing great. I mean, basketball has had a great season. Women's basketball almost just won the Big Ten tournament and beat Caitlin Clark and Iowa two times in one season, almost. Yeah. I mean, the softball team signed Jordy Ball. The football team signs the biggest prospect they've ever signed. Mm-hmm. It's just like all this stuff was like lending itself like, all right, here we go. And then Trev, like, so again, so all that, taking all that into account, I don't think it was just well, I like Texas A&M better. I don't think it was that, because he's taking a contract cut. He had an 8-year here. He's taking a 5-year there. That's a cut. Yeah. So yeah, I think we've talked enough about Trev Alberts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I hope to never talk about it again. I hope we hire a rock star in his place, because here's the other thing that sucks about it. Real quick, one last point. Mm-hmm. We've had a revolving door of administrators and athletic directors and all that stuff. Bill Moose did a piss poor job. Everyone knows it. And all the crap that happened dating all the way back to Sullage. I mean, we've just never really had like the right guy. We had like a 5-year period where Tom handled things pretty well. And then we've just been in the shitter pretty much ever since. And so it's like we finally had our guy. Our guy was Trev, and he was doing such a good job, and then just out of nowhere, it's just like a little slap in the face. We feel like we got broken up with. Yeah, we
can't handle a see, if there are other good athletic directors out there.
No doubt.
Like, you know, Trev was definitely a star.
Look at Mac Rhodes. That's who I want. I want Mac Rhodes. He was he was the Houston athletic director when Herman was there. He left shortly before Herman, and then he went to Temple. He was He was the Baylor athletic director who hired Rule. Rule loves him. Dad, I mean, we knew him when he was there. He's great. That's who I want. I want Mac Rhodes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Go hire him. Him.
Yeah, what we can't afford another Moose situation who just dips in whenever he feels like it, and like, hey, look, we'll do this project and I'll leave before it even starts.
I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to replace a Trev. It's just hard to replace a Trev Alberts. It just is. He was our spokesperson, and we all trusted him. Yeah. We trusted him.
Yeah, maybe Eric Crouch is up for the deal. Right?
Absolutely not. We need somebody with experience. Unfortunately, people have floated out John Cook, and it's like, I love John Cook. He's a hell of a coach, but administrative experience. We need somebody who can politic in those circles. We do, unfortunately. Mac Rhodes is my guy. That would actually mitigate a lot. People don't realize Mac Rhodes is a hell of an athletic director, and now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, he's got ties with Rule and stuff. Come on, Mac Rhodes.
Yeah. Sure.
But
all right. Do you want to touch on this Saban stuff?
Yeah, we'll touch on the Saban stuff, maybe talk a little Rayola or something, and then we'll get out of here.
Cool. So for those that are just listening, Mr. Saban goes to Washington. Basically today he met with what was it? Not today. This week he met with was it Congress?
Yeah, something.
It was a special counsel. I don't know.
The sleaze bags up in Washington.
Yeah, they have so many special counsel and like hearing things. But I listened to a little bit of it. I'm interested to see your takes.
I haven't listened to any of that.
Oh, okay. So basically, what he was saying is like one of the reasons he retired was that like the whole landscape of college football was changing, and it used to be, you were in for like investing in the kids. You would talk to their parents and, say like, I can give your kid XYZ. I'm going to build them as a person. I'm going to like do all this stuff for them. And then it changed to how much money can you get my kid? And he was just like, he's like, it's not what I loved. And so that's one of the reasons I changed. And he said, and it has to change because what's going on right now is not good. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I think, as far as NIL goes, the universities and coaching staff need to stay out of it because right now they're not. It's really obvious. Everybody's doing it. There's tampering. There's like, we can get you this much money. And then it becomes, semi-pro ball. Now, some of the players deserve to do that, but they have to go work for it. Do you know what I mean? Just because you're playing for a school, doing this and doing that, you have to go earn that. Like, I feel like you have to go like your name, image, and likeness. That's fine. Hire an agent, try to get that stuff, and completely on your own.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let's put it this way. There's then things that are. I agree with you. Definitely in theory, I definitely do. I guess my biggest thought is that like Pandora's box has been opened a little bit. It's just hard to close it. You would have to put in so much regulation. Like, are you going to have the IRS visit these dudes every week and check their bank account? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, so that's number one. But number two, it's sort of like the example of Johnny Football. That's what I was going to say. The example of Johnny Football. It's like, but what do you do in that situation? Like, all those jerseys that are being sold with number 2, that's him that is selling all those jerseys. You know what I mean? You're not going in and buying number 2 just because. You're going in because Johnny Football is number 2. So, like, things like jersey sales, apparel, all that stuff definitely needs to be worked out, but it needs to be down to like a system. Like, you get 10% of this or 20% of that or whatever it is, because that's a real thing. I mean, like, if you're going to sell apparel that directly references the athletes themselves, like, they need to be compensated for that. That's just how it should work in America. But I agree. I completely agree with you. Like, I don't like it in idea at all.
No. And it's kind of what the Wild West right now, which is kind of what Saban was getting at. Not that he was completely against players being able to make that kind of money off of themselves, you know, and their talent and everything. But there needs to be regulation. And there really does. And it needs to come from an outside, like, the government does. We won't get into all that, but they don't really do their jobs in general. But they need to probably step in at this point, just because the NCAA is not a good organization. They really only do look out for themselves. There needs to be set boundaries and limitations, so that this is good and it can be maintained. Because what we're at right now, I don't think it can be maintained, you know?
100%. I mean, and I guess that's the first thing that needs to be figured out, right? Is like, what is the governing body? And like, what is their power? What do they have? Like, what do they do? And like, who are they? That's the first thing, that, because I have all these ideas running through my mind of like how you could mitigate this. Could you implement salary caps here? Could you do this and that? Which would be an interesting, then if you spend outside of your salary cap, there you go. You get fined, or you get, you know, suspensions or whatever it is. That's where they come in and regulate. But then it's like, who's regulating? So ultimately, that's where we are right now, is like, they're trying to figure out who's going to be the governing body for this. Because it ain't going to be the NCAA, I'll tell you that much right now. And you got to, I mean, when we first started this podcast, you got to give me a little credit, because that was in 2021. And I was talking about stuff like this. How I had the breakaway and all that stuff, because I was following that tinfoil hatter reporter on Twitter. And he was just like, I was just reading all this stuff. But he was right, a lot of it. But yeah, so it's going to be like the College Football Playoff Committee or something like that is going to be the governing body. And I'll say this: I mean, Nick Saban has my vote to be the leader of that, because
I mean, that's what he wants to do. I mean, that man's not going to stay still. I think he already got a broadcasting gig. It's like he's gonna be doing a lot. So I do think, and people who were like going after him, you know, stupid people, is like, well, you are making millions off these kids. And it's like, no, he was in charge of a entire organization, not just the kids. Like, he was in charge of everything. Like, coaches, they do. I think the college coaches, you know, some of them are overpaid, but they do a lot, especially Saban. Saban won how many national championships? Like
6.
That's that's hard to do. And it, like, he deserved the money, but like, that's not a way to attack him. Like, he's a grown man, and that's a job. Completely different.
And the criticism I heard a lot was like, well, he's criticizing what's going on now. Well, he's been doing it forever, even before it was legal, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, you know what? Like, there may be some truth to that. I'm not a Saban or an Alabama fan, but I just think that's besides the point at this point, because at this point it's legal now. So we got to figure out what to do now that it's legal. Because I'll tell you this much. Even when it wasn't legal, if that stuff was happening in Saban's program, I guarantee that he was like, hell no, that guy's not making this. Hell no. You know what I mean? I guarantee there was some sort of internalized system they had to make sure that nobody was just like getting something they didn't deserve at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so like those shorts you see on YouTube with the Don Travius guy, he's like, I'm Don Travius, and he like has a Saban impression and all the stuff. He's always talking about, 5 bands. Yeah, come on. Yeah, you know what I mean? And there probably was some truth to some of that, but I don't think it was as prevalent as people think, though.
No.
Especially at a program like Alabama, because they just became such a powerhouse that it was just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
It was like the success breeds success. And that's really what happened with them. Maybe there was a little bit of that going on right at the beginning with the building phase of things, but honestly, I doubt it. To be quite honest, I kind of doubt it. Because guess what? Ole Miss got caught. They were doing it. They got caught. You know what I mean? Tennessee just got caught, but guess what? That's what's opened this can of worms that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
That's what ended up being the nail in the coffin for the NCAA. Think about that. The Tennessee Volunteers. They ended up being the nail in the coffin for the NCAA. They were like, hell no. Like, you got to give them respect. They were just like, you're not doing that to us. But anyway, so we talked about Saban, talked about Trev. Let's talk a little bit about spring ball coming up. I think this is one of the most interesting springs coming up that we've had in a long time. And that's besides all the news we heard today. I can't let that get me sad. Because guess what? Rule, love the dude, posted a video today that was just like, we're working. Basically is what the video, like we're working. Don't worry, we're working. And I respect that because he knew the fans needed to hear something like that.
And he's like, I've decided I'm going to A&M as well.
Yeah. But not this year. Don't worry.
Yeah, not this year.
Don't want him to say that. But anyway, so it's a very interesting spring, and the number one reason it's a very interesting. There's other reasons, but the number one reason it's a very interesting spring is just because of the quarterback prospect of Dylan Raiola that we have in. There's no getting around it. That's why it's so interesting, because we just haven't had a thrower of his caliber. And from all reports, so far so good. He's came in, he's assimilated with the team, he's working in mat drills. We don't really know anything yet.
I think it's going to be a little bit more. Everyone has just kind of anointed Raiola as the starter, but they forget. And again, he's a great talent. He's going to be the future, and even if that is this year, I'm not making a prediction one way or the other. But right now we have a real quarterback coach for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, we haven't touched on that. Glenn Thomas. I like that.
Yeah, we have a real quarterback coach, and our quarterback room is full of talented people. Even Daniel Kalen. Like, I feel bad for the dude because he was kind of like, he flipped from Missouri, which now that even looks kind of worse. Like the track Missouri's on. But better kind of for us, but I feel bad for him. To his credit, he didn't shy away. He's going to stick and he's going to try to fight for the job, right?
Well, he thought about going to Michigan State, and then he realized I think he pretty much realized, it's a similar position everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to win the job wherever you go. You might as well try to win at the place you love.
Yep.
It's simply the decision you made, you know?
So now we have like 3 quarterbacks. And just think about this, because I thought about it the other day. We have 3 quarterbacks that grew up watching Nebraska football.
It's awesome.
3 of them.
You're right about that. I love that. I never thought about that.
One that finally got game experience.
Yeah.
Who could mature with what I was getting at with the right coaching. Herbert has all the tools. He has the physical tools. He's smart. He's very athletic. I think that if Glenn Thomas gets in there and is able to kind of tweak some things with him, I think it could be a little bit more of a battle than people are just giving him credit for.
No doubt.
Because being thrown into the position that he was last year, and make no mistake, he was thrown into it.
Yeah.
They thought Jess Sims was going to work out. They really did. Right. Or they convinced themselves that he was going to. But he took over. Like, they just kind of threw him into the starting position, and he led us to 5 wins.
Yes.
That's the best year of Adrian
No other
Martinez.
quarterback got a win the whole season.
No other quarterback got a win the entire season. And you can look at like mistakes here and there. Yeah. A lot of that again had to do with the play calling. They were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I'm not going to do that motion again. They're trying to put a square peg into
just
a round
over and over and over again.
over and over. Yeah. And again, when you have quarterbacks that have more interceptions across the board than touchdowns, that has to do somewhat with play calling and personnel.
Yeah.
Our wide receiving core has been reloaded, restocked, and is way better. We're in a way better position. You think about this too, our running game. So now we have Emmett Johnson. We're getting Ramir Johnson back. We're getting Gabe Irvin back if they all stay. And then we got a couple other, I almost said rookies, a couple other freshmen, coming in. Super talented. You have Malachi Coleman, you have Fedoni, you have Carter Nelson coming in on the tight end space. You have so many other pieces now that they've just built up, right? And I know I'm forgetting some too.
No doubt.
But just stuff that they've built up. There is so much more talent around there now. And now that Satterfield can kind of just focus on one thing and stop trying to focus on something that he's probably not the best at, just gonna probably not the best person to teach quarterbacks, and they have their co-offensive coordinators too, so if something's not working, I don't know how much sway one has over the other, but co is co, right?
Yeah,
but it's going to be interesting. I hope that Harburg really does push him, and it's more of a back and forth, because that'll be good for the team. It'll be good for Raiola too. And he's not shying away from a challenge, or else he wouldn't have come to Nebraska. So
so I'll probably take a little bit of the opposite position, but first, before I do, let me heap loads of praise on Harburg, because he deserves it. He's a really good athlete. I think that he was the spark of our team last year that really helped us get a lot of those wins. So he's a great teammate, loves Nebraska, all the stuff. Let me paint this picture to you first as a positive. At Temple, when Rule first got there, here's the interesting thing, is that history repeats itself. At Temple, when Rule first got there, Marcus Satterfield was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and they had a terrible year. In between year 1 and year 2, he made the exact switch he just made with the exact same people.
Yeah, same people.
And guess what happened from there? They exploded pretty much.
Yep.
I think it'll be good for the whole quarterback room, and I'm not saying that Harburg can't improve. He totally can. But let me just say this. He's been a 51% passer his entire career. That's through high school, everywhere. And we've said this on this show, which is like, you can learn how to be a quarterback, but there's an element of quarterbacking that's like, you either sort of have it or you don't. And that's why there's greats and why there's goods and why there's averages. You know what I mean? Like, because some people just have it and some people don't. So I'm not saying he doesn't have it. I think he's a gamer. I like him a lot. And matter of fact, let me say this. I think that when spring football practice starts, Harburg should get the first reps with Team 1 when they first go out there. No, that it should not be Raiola or anybody else. It should be Harburg with Team 1 day 1. Now, where it goes from there, I have no idea. But Team 1 day 1, it should be Harburg. Now, but let me just say this. With the type of talent that Dylan Raiola has, I'd almost be worried if it wasn't him as the starter. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, so, and one of the things, every film junkie that analyzes Raiola film on YouTube always talks about how he's one of the most college game ready high school quarterbacks they've ever seen, because of his footwork and just some of the little things that he does, the touch that he has on the ball, his arm strength, all that stuff. And that could end up being a bad omen and everybody's wrong. But I just would feel really good going into the season if he looks good in the spring game and then he's the starter. Now, that's not anything against Harburg, but it's just, for me, the way the picture plays out is like, I would feel really comfortable if that ends up happening. I'd feel kind of weird if it doesn't, because it's just, we have never had a talent like him at that position.
Yeah.
It unlocks so many things for you.
You're right. And I wasn't saying that I think Harburg's going to be starter day one. I just don't think it's as of a here you go as people are treating it.
Agreed.
And I don't expect him to kind of like lay down.
No, it'll be a battle through spring and probably through the first couple weeks of fall camp.
And again, who knows? Like at some point, we're going to see all these quarterbacks. Well, at least two of them. We're going to see them this year. It's somebody's going to get hurt. They're going to get banged up, and we're going to see them. Yeah. Whether it goes from Harburg to Raiola or vice versa, that's just the nature of it. Yeah. And it's not that like I'm expecting it. I mean, there are definitely people that play the whole season and are completely fine or whatever, but just odds are that doesn't happen every team. Most teams have to play half a game or a quarter or
100%.
We're
going to need everybody pretty much. But to your point about the talent reloading, I completely agree with that. I mean, I saw this one video on a Voice of College Football recently that the guy was talking about Justin Adams, as I think his name. He was talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, not Jahmyr Gibbs. He was talking about Jamal Banks. Yeah, if we got Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay, we'll get Jahmyr Gibbs, man.
Yeah, we're good. No, he was talking about Jamal Banks, and he looked at his single season stats from last year and compared them to our entire receiving room, and he had like more touchdowns and more receptions and more. It was like ridiculous. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And not only that, but we added Isaiah Nair, who, when you look at his one season at Wyoming, that is the reason why he's so prominent. Same thing. He had his stats were just off the chart compared to anybody we had. So yeah, we're getting a lot of talent in. And one of the big reasons why I say I'd feel better if it was Raiola than it would be Harburg is because I think we got a lot of talent in, and I want to be able to use all of them. And I think Harburg.
I forgot about him.
Who?
Jalen Lloyd.
Oh, yeah, Jalen Lloyd. Yeah, another one, yeah. So we have a lot of talent. I want to be able to use all of them. I want them all to be able to shine. And I just think there's more of a chance of that being able to happen if you got a Raiola-type quarterback in there versus what Harburg's able to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't know if you've probably been watching those videos. I have too. Harburg looks bigger. Yeah. Like even like in that dunk competition, like I thought that was fun.
Sick. That was sweet.
Cool.
That was so good.
That dunk competition was a good pub. But he looks bigger.
But anyway, so spring football. Let's both just give one guy besides Raiola, but anybody else. What's one player, offensively or defensively, that you're just looking to see something out of in spring ball? Well, I'll give you one while you're thinking about it. How about this? Last spring we had quarterbacks live. We had 6 quarterbacks last spring, and a lot of them were going to transfer. I don't see us doing that now because we only have 3. 2 of them are young. I don't see us going live with quarterbacks, but running backs will always be live. So you can actually see really kind of a lot of stuff with running backs. So I'm interested in Dante Dowdell for sure. I was sort of nonchalant when we signed Dante Dowdell from Oregon. But then I looked at his film, and he's very impressive. I got the same feeling looking at his film that I did looking at A.J. Allen's film. And give me some credit again, because when A.J. Allen was a freshman and we got like the first practice tapes of just people warming up, I made a note of it to you. I was like, that guy might be the best guy in the room. And guess what? He arguably was at the time. Yeah. So we could really use him now. But yeah, so Dante Dowdell is my look. I just want to see him get north and south and look like a freaking running back, because it seems like we've had a string of guys over the last 5 to 10 years that just don't have that it factor that you need in a running back. That I'm just going to take the ball and get this first down myself sort of like ability. You know what I mean? We need that guy. Having a RB1 that puts that strikes fear in the heart of the defenses is so important. We just haven't had that guy. You know what I mean? Maybe Gabe Urban can develop into that guy. He's a bruising back and he'll be back, stuff like that. But Dante Dowdell has it all. He's a big back, but he's fast. He's got really good top end speed, and he's shifty too. I mean, he reminded me a lot of Adrian Peterson when I looked at his highlights from high school. Reminded me a lot of Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I got one.
But, all right, go ahead.
Tommy Hill.
Okay, yeah.
His progression from the first year he was here to last year was night and day, right?
Oh yeah,
He went from a liability to one of the strongest points. I'm interested to see, because of like all that talent that we said we've like restocked on, do they still put him in on gadgets one way or the other and try to do both ways, or is he strictly going to be defense? Right. So I'll be interested to see what they do that way. But yeah, I want to see his progression because he is very fast. He's very fast. And he has the tools to kind of if he takes another step, he's going to be a very high draft pick.
Damn, man, you are like the president of the Tommy Hill fan club. I feel like you've chosen him like 2 or 3 times when we have these types of questions. It's like the player you're looking forward to. Or what was the other one we had? Like
last year, I was just trying to look at speed.
yeah, we needed it. I mean, we needed it. I mean, and remember at the beginning of the year, I was talking about Tommy Hill might be our version of what's the dude from Colorado?
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, he might be our version of Travis Hunter. That didn't really
Travis
play
Hunter
out like
wasn't
that.
even the version of Travis Hunter.
No, he wasn't. He was for the first 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, and then he got burnt out because you can't do that all season.
Yeah. That's gonna be another interesting storyline to watch this next year, man. Colorado. We'll have to have Greg on again when that game is coming up.
Yeah, maybe you don't get sick this time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're making it a point. I'm putting this on the recording right now. We're making it a point. Going forward, we're going to try to do these on Wednesdays, so you can look forward to that on Wednesdays. And it depends on how much we'll have to talk about. This was a long one. We hadn't met in a while. Yeah. If there's one major topic we'll talk about, it might only be a 20-minute podcast. If there's a lot, it might be an hour. So just look for us every Wednesday on the Cornhusker Corner channel. And thanks for watching. And like and subscribe to the channel.
Like and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
Always remember that there's no place like
this podcast.